All right, you guys, welcome back to some more Hapymaher. But before we get into the episode, I think it's important to recognize that Purple Software just announced Hapymaher Regret End today, which I'm not entirely sure what that entails. I kind of just read a little bit of the basics on it because I don't want to get spoiled, so I can't really read into what necessarily that adds. But it sounds like they're kind of remastering some of the CGs and things like that, and it has something to do with the fan disc. I don't know if that's already translated or already out. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that. I'm not gonna dive into it too much until I finish the game, of course. But I just think that's very amusing that they're doing all this as I'm playing through the game. You know, they could have announced this a little bit earlier. I probably would have waited and played that because I believe it's coming out in May, something like that. So pretty soon because we're almost done with February. But just wanted to throw that out there. That's pretty exciting. I'm gonna just continue on playing the game like I have. I'll probably be done with it by then, hopefully, at the rate I'm going. Who knows? But let's go ahead and jump back into it. So Yayoi wants us to help her with something. She said that she's gonna make us her slave, which is not very exciting. I prefer the term assistant, but we'll go with that instead. We decided to get as much done as we could on Saturday rather than Sunday when I had to go to my part-time job in the evening. Oh, you're in this outfit, huh? I think we've seen this before, haven't we? I don't know. Anyways, come on in. Club Prez came in after giving the proper greeting. There was probably something wrong about actually feeling relieved that she didn't just barge in without permission. Saki. We basically had Saturdays off at our school, but for interested parties, there were things like supplementary studies and extra classes. Club Press asked us as she took off her shoes and entered the apartment. My grades aren't that bad, and I don't intend to go to college anyway, so it's fine. At our school, with its escalator system, people generally took supplementary studies if they needed more credits, extra classes if they wanted to study so they could enter a college. Prez was the one who was going to college, so was it alright for her to have a part-time job like this? All because we set a precedent. My room is now your work room. Weren't you the one? Wasn't this your whole idea? Okay. Club Prez made a cute fake gesture of being annoyed. The work you brought, Club Prez. Alright, what are we working on here? Just let out a sigh. If you don't feel up to it, then you shouldn't accept the work. Just like last time, Klepress put her work tools on the table, which had already been cleaned off. I'd be concerned about what your work tools is. I get a little suspicious when it says in quotations. In that sense, it's helpful to me too. What she had placed on the table was a dictionary and a loose leaf bundle, and several Western books. A dictionary, loose leaf bundle. Is that for making tea? Several Western books. Are you translating? Loprez's part-time job was... Okay, I figured since I knew she knew some English, right? And then she has a dictionary and then some books. Translating Western books. But Club Prez, it looks like you have several books. We're not doing all of them, right? It's the Magic Treehouse books, right? Probably not. She showed me one of the books underneath, and I was relieved to see it was a cover I'd seen before. And so we got started. Translating, huh? I mean, that's definitely something I could see Yayoi doing. A little unexpected, though. In this case, Western meant that the books were in English. Club Prez rendered what were considered children's novels overseas into Japanese text. She would write on a sheet of loose leaf, and I would sit next to her and enter the text into the computer. It's quite a tedious process. A sheet of loose leaf? Like, what exactly is that? Are we talking about a physical leaf, or is that like a kind of paper? Interesting. I was definitely thinking that was for tea, but who knows? I know I'm always saying this, but you need to learn to type, Club Prez. Okay, then don't have long nails. You made a face like a child confronted with their least favorite school subject. Mine would be math. Even though she could handle a smartphone touchscreen, apparently she wasn't good at using a computer keyboard. My job wasn't just data entry.
と、ここでシーンは一区切りかしら。
She tidied up her notebook. Since this was a children's novel, it had more text than a picture book, but much fewer words than your average novel. After we gathered all the parts of the scene, the work that Club Press designated me as helper for began. Yeah, so Club Press, starting with this.
2行目からとは相変わらずスパルタね。
I love the way she said Spartan. Is that supposed to be like a reference to something you're as Spartan as ever? If it is, I don't know the reference, unfortunately. I never saw like the movie 300 or anything, so. You've always had some of the first line before, though. Anyways, it's a kid's book, so I think it sounds strange to say atrocious all of a sudden. I pointed it out on the computer screen with the mouse cursor.
じゃあ、トールはどうすればいいと思う？
I think just that's terrible or something would be fine.
なるほど。ひどいよった。
She said it out loud as she corrected it in her notebook with a red pen. I corrected the text on the computer. So next, this is an elementary school kid, right? Normally a kid wouldn't say too lenient. I think you understand by now, but Lopez knew the grammar well for both languages, and she got good grades in Japanese classes at school, but how come you could do it when you talk, but you sound so stiff when you write?
きっと私、話すときと文章を見るときに使ってる頭の回路が違うのよ。
Different circuits, huh? She's really poor at expressing things with words. Why don't you try saying it out loud before you write it?
いやよ、横でトールが聞いてるんでしょ？そんなの恥ずかしいじゃない。
You look genuinely embarrassed with no trace of her usual cool attitude. I mean, I feel like when you're doing something that involves work, sometimes you do embarrassing stuff, but that's what helps you get the job done, so I wouldn't be too worried about it, especially with it being Toru, okay?
あと、多分一回このまま文章に移さないと忘れちゃうと思うし。
What was that what she meant by different
ほら
circuits?
ほら、まだ最初のシーンよ。どんどんやらないと終わらないわ。
That's true. So why is this guy suddenly laughing at such an impersonal? Oh gosh, I don't want to do that laugh. I'm so sick of hearing laughs after freaking clockwork ley line.
いいでしょ。なんで消すのよ。
Why are you deleting it? I deleted the text in silence, leaving it blank. Like I said before, that's not what a kid would say. Come on, think of a more childlike laugh.
これでやつも困るだろう。ごめん、それも違うわ。
I never thought of how hard that would be to come up with laughs for characters. I definitely feel like they write out the laughs more in like novels like this, because I don't know, when I grew up reading like books and stuff, you know, here in America and in more Western type English, I don't feel like they really wrote out laughs a lot, or it would just be like a quick haha type thing, you know? It would be very like short and simple. And in Japan, I feel like they have a lot of different ways of writing out laughs, or at least we have a lot of different ways of translating their laughs. Very interesting, a little bit different culture there. Maybe it would be better if I took care of altering the text, but I had hardly read the original work. If I tried and had a dictionary at hand, I could read it, but we didn't have time for that. The character is the leader kid who appeared in the earlier volumes, right?
あ、うん、そうよ。だけど、そんな笑い方でいいのかしら。
You really aren't cut out to be a novelist, are you? Clubhouse looked annoyed. She checked both versions to make sure that the alteration fit the original work. Wait, come on. Why are there weird things going on in every line? Are you waiting for witty quips on all of them? The screen was covered in the ats I had used when I wasn't sure about something.
迷惑かけるわね。これが終わったらサービスしてあげるから頑張ってね。
Favor, huh? When I heard a little favor, I almost thought of something dirty, but I managed to stop it just before Clepress would have noticed. Teasing me like that can wait until after.
はーい。トールってば結構真面目なんだから。
She looked unenthusiastic even though she'd brought the work onto herself.
だけど、後でってことは、後でならしたいの？
Just concentrate on this. That's what I would say too. Like, can we just focus? In awkward tandem, we continue to translate the children's story into Japanese. I don't know, that's a pretty cool, like, little side job, though.
お菓子お茶
I thought you didn't like sweets. Club stretched out her arms and flopped into the sofa behind her. I think she just doesn't like sweet coffee. Or was that us? I thought it was her, though. Her chest bounced when she did so, and my eyes were inadvertently drawn to them. Oh my gosh, tell her now you're getting distracted. The club press must have been tired because she didn't notice. She was still leaning back, spread eagle, or rather in a Y shape. I guess I'll prepare some tea. It was part of my job as a helper. This work wasn't that difficult for me, so I had the energy to prepare some snacks. I had replenished my tea and sweets beforehand for today. While I was preparing them, Club Press seemed to recover during her short rest and sat up.
それにしても不公平だろ
What isn't? Club Press gave a rare, tired expression. Without hiding her feelings, she allowed herself to look listless. When I replied, she had an expression that said she was tired.
同じ理系なのにどうしてトールはきちんと話の文章に変換できるのよ
I think just about anyone could do it better than you.
だって出版社の人も褒めてたものきちんと子供向けのいい文章に翻訳してあるって
Well, I don't think I could do it with anything that wasn't for kids. Empress tilted her head, apparently wondering what I meant. I prepared the tea with the boiled water. When we were little, my sister would pester me to read her lots of picture books. Not only the ones that were in the house, but also the ones we found at the local library. I handed Club Press a cup of black tea. She accepted it and said,
指が当たっちゃったとかそういうのは期待してないわよね
Hey, stop trolling. It's hot, don't burn yourself. I don't think her fingers were... I did think her fingers were pretty and soft. Very interesting to describe a hand like that. And I was conscious of them for a moment, but I didn't do anything that cliched.
それでいろんな絵本ってどのくらい読んだの
To be honest, I don't remember how many I read. Also, I guess they can be called discussions now. We talked about our thoughts on what kind of story it was when we finished it. We also talked about what lines were good or sounded strange. That's it, I continued since I was small, I had become quite knowledgeable about children's stories. Wow, you were already becoming a little bit of a... What would you call that? Someone who critiques things. I'm blanking. I'm sorry. It's been a while since I've recorded, and it feels kind of weird. I just kind of like took a week break, and now I'm like coming back, and I'm like, oh, I'm just like forgetting things. I'm very forgetful. We had only discussed books that I could read out loud to her. A critic. Someone who critiques things is a critic. It's early, guys, and I actually have the day off of work. I should have worked today, but I actually have the day off because there's like a blizzard outside right now. So, you know, it's early. I won't complain. We had only discussed books that I could read out loud to her, so I could only do this with children's books.
なるほど確かにさきちゃんは文系だものね納得だわ
Saki always said that she didn't want anything that didn't have a happy ending. You won't like this game then, because I have a feeling there's going to be quite a few not happy endings in this. Especially with the new project they have going called Regret ending. I don't know what that's alluding to. I had a different opinion. I thought it was fine as long as it was a satisfying ending for that particular story. Yeah, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? What kind of ending do you like? I don't necessarily need a happy ending. Sometimes it's nice to have happy endings, especially when you're playing games with multiple routes. You can kind of diversify the endings, right? Like some of them might be happy, some of them might be more neutral, and then some of them might just be bad. I mean, not necessarily bad as in like poorly written, but just not happy. Like they just kind of end on a sour note and they just kind of leave it at that. I mean, I think that's okay. I think a good example of a story that I really liked that didn't necessarily have a super happy ending was Star Wars. Surprisingly, I think Rogue One had a great ending because you know what happened? Okay, but close your ears if you don't want spoilers, but I'm assuming this has been out for a while, so if you haven't seen it already, you're gonna get spoiled. Most of the people end up dying in the end. And I actually thought that was a really nice story. I like stories that are not afraid to kill off people, especially ones that are important. So I think that was a great example of a bad ending, even though it was good. From my point of view, it seems much stranger that you're translating children's books, Club Prez. I mean, to be fair though, Rogue One kind of was like a prequel to the prequels, right? So, I mean, it kind of ends up being better after that, I guess. I don't know if that was the best example to use. Anyways, tangent aside, I prepared my own tea and snack and headed for the table.
あれのせいよ。最初は私だって科学史の一項目翻訳するのを手伝っただけなんだもの。
It's my fault. I have no idea what that would be.
そうよ。人手が足りないからって子供向けの絵本の翻訳をとりあえずで頼まれて部室でうなってたらトールが助けてくれたんじゃない。そしたら編集部でも好評でこうして続けて仕事が来るようになっちゃったのよ。
Ah, that's how we got stuck in this situation, huh? Prepaz looked at the book out of the corner of her eye and heaved a serious sigh. Well, whether or not it was my fault aside, it was true that I had been the one to help her when I saw her exhausted in the club room holding a notebook with strange Japanese in it. It was full of odd sentences that sounded like they came from a historical play. I'd gotten curious and asked her about it, so it couldn't be helped.
さておいてってどういう意味よ。
No, I'll take responsibility and help you out, but I mean, why were you translating stuff in the first place?
パパ、父さんの友達が編集部の人なのよ。それでうちに遊びに来た時に困ってて、科学史の仕事を付き合いで引き受けたんだけど、専門知識のある人がいないからどうしようって。
A science magazine. I'm surprised you were able to translate something so technical.
まあその時は私も知ってる分野だったし、あとはネットで間違ってないか確認しながらだったわよ。
I feel like that's a lot of professions nowadays, at least from the jokes I hear about them. Especially people that do like kind of more tech support. Like they have a general knowledge of it. Like they know the basics of what they're doing, but there's a lot of very specific things that it's hard to tell. I mean, just right offhand, you kind of have to like delve into it and look at like specifically the steps and everything that led up to something. You just kind of have to Google it. Or like people who code, I've heard like they just literally like rip code from the internet. I don't know how true that is, but I think it's funny to think that somebody who's considered a professional like has to like go onto the internet sometimes and Google it just like somebody else could.
1ページもなかったからそれでなんとかなったし、その時は。
You managed it then, but you got asked again later. Why did you take on picture book translation?
絵本だなんて思わなかったのよ。また専門的なちょっとしたサイズのものだと思ったのよ。
That was what led to me discovering her groaning in the club room.
それでトールが手伝ってくれたのが好評で。
Did you tell them I helped you?
言ったら今度からできるだけ2人でやってくださいねって言われたわ。ただしバイト代据え置きで。
Wow, so just use my work for free. Wow.
うわーじゃないわよ、ほんと。
The press held her head. But if it was a children's book, it could be finished in a day or two, and the pay was good for the amount of work. So for me, it was a pretty nice gig. Maybe this is a naive question, but why were you agonizing over it in the club room that time? Technically, it was a preparation room. It was a day off. I was at a club finishing a diagram when I called out the club prez, who was groaning over a picture book with a dictionary next to it. That was how it all started.
家で朝日に手伝ってもらおうと思ったら哲也連れてきてたのよ。
Yeah, that darn Tetsuya. Oh, it's better than him fawning over another girl. It'd be hard to ask for her help in that situation. Right, Club Press said as she reached out for a cookie and bit into it. In other words, so various things led to this situation.
そういうこと。恨み事は言わないけど原因の一端なんだから通りにはもうちょっと付き合ってもらうわよ。
So, I'm suffering the consequences of my action because I did a nice thing. Makes sense. I have no reason not to, so I'll help as much as you want.
やっぱり不公平だわ。そんな文章力少し分けなさいよ。天は何物適当に与えて回る気よ。
Good question. I have no idea. If I knew, I would tell you. For you, of all people to say that, she was a perfect example of someone who had two of the most important God-given gifts, brains and beauty. It is kind of funny how beauty, or, you know, something that you literally don't get to decide. I mean, I feel like brains, to a certain degree, you can kind of train your brain, right? It's kind of like a muscle. I mean, I think a lot of people would compare it to a muscle. It's something you can like continually grow stronger if you exercise it, right? Um, yeah, beauty is not something like that. I mean, you can definitely work out and like train your body to look a certain way, but that doesn't necessarily make you beautiful, or it doesn't make you like handsome, right? That's very interesting. For to complain about fairness while having those two things, it is hard to take.
あら、私だって今の私になるまでにそれなりに苦労はしてるんだけど。
Yeah, I feel like that's very true of a lot of people. A lot of people in society that get looked up to generally had to work hard to get to where they are. I think even the people that were just kind of born naturally attractive or whatever, I think some of them had to work hard to get to where they are too. Some people are like, oh, it's just because of their looks that they got to where they are. I mean, that certainly helps, right? But that doesn't mean you didn't work for the things you have. But hard work can only take a person so far. When I said this, Club Prez gave a cold expression, which she rarely showed to other people, or at least had never shown me when other people were around.
必要なければそれで十分だものね。
It's not necessary, and that's enough. I think so too. I ignored Club Prez's expression when she had times when she wore such a face. Well, we'll get going again when we finish our tea. There seems to be more pages this time around. With that, Club Prez returned to her expression she wore often. It was like she had tasted something bitter.
これ終わったら肉食べに行くわよ。生ハムよ、ハム。それにチーズ、トマトに赤ワインが私を呼んでるわ。
Huh. Okay. Not what I thought you meant by when you said meat. And no, I'm not thinking of something dirty. I was just thinking she's gonna go, like... I don't know, I was thinking Korean barbecue is what first came to my mind. You know, somewhere where you just mainly eat a bunch of meat and sides and things like that. You're half British, aren't you? What's with that parade of Italian food? Or at least it was generic European food. It wasn't exactly staples of British cuisine.
疲れ切った体にイギリスのご飯は拷問だと思わない？
I've never eaten never eaten much British food, so the president looked at me seriously.
用意してあげようか？なんなら私が食べさせてあげてもいいわよ。
I honestly think some of the only like British food I've ever seen is fish and chips considered British. I have no idea. That might not be a good example, but I know like the British breakfast where it has like beans and things like that. I'm like, yeah, that doesn't look too appetizing. I mean, I like beans, don't get me wrong, but I necessarily wouldn't have it with breakfast food. And I'm not a huge fish and chips kind of person. Like I said, I don't even know if that is British. I just kind of associate it with that. But it might not be. Why would you do that? What's your ulterior motive?
家にあるマーマイトを一刻も早くなくしてしまいたいのよ。
Marmite? Marmite was basically beer lees. Club Prez often complained that it was salty and sour and hard to eat if you weren't used to it. Asahi or someone will just buy some more, so you'll never be able to get rid of it anyways. Apparently Asahi couldn't live without it. I had seen Tetsuya desperately eating it in an attempt to get used to the taste. He's like, oh boy, you know, if I'm gonna be with her long term, you know, gonna have to get used to this one. So there's Marmite, and is the other one like Vegemite? Is that what Australians like? Yeah, I don't know if I could do that. By the way, he once offered me a toasted sandwich with Marmite. I respectfully declined.
あれがある限り、我が家に平穏はないわ。
I'll accept the blame for reminding you of it, so let's get back to work, okay?
そうね。
Even though we just came off our break, she didn't look like she'd recovered. Club Prez, who was translating kids' books, even though she was totally science-minded, picked up the book with its bookmark and sighed deeply. Yeah, it is very interesting for her. I don't know, does Yayoi even like kids? I kind of would assume she doesn't, but...
終わったわ。
Club Prez flung herself face down onto the table. The red pen slipped from her fingers and rolled across the surface. Good work. I fixed the last sentence and saved the data, then copied it to the USB thumb drive. I'd offer Club Prez her loose leaf bundle and the thumb drive with both hands, and this translation project would be over. She raised herself sluggishly from the table, looking like a ghost. I've seen this spectacle several times. Why did she accept this work when she hated it so much? It's fine if you want to translate, but for now, don't accept any extra jobs that have to do with stories. because I can't guarantee that I'll always be able to help you.
分かってるわ。トールはこのまま絵本作家にでもなればいいのよ。
I could see him doing that. He does seem like the kind of person who likes to write stories. I can't draw. I felt more comfortable with science too. I wasn't the least bit cut out for imagining stories. I mean, I would definitely say some of those authors don't draw their own stuff. Like, I would imagine you either draw or you write. And if you can do both, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's a children's book, so it doesn't have to be like the best artwork in the world, right? Like, I've seen some that are very artistic and you can tell like a lot of effort was put into it. And some are more just simple but stylized. So I think you could get away with either. Now, see, I have absolutely no drawing talent, though I do have a few people in my family who definitely do. Unfortunately, I didn't get any of those genes at all. Felt more comfortable with science, too. I wasn't the least bit cut out for imagining stories. Well, looks like it's too late to go out to eat. From next to Club Prez, I took out the loose leaf bundle and put it in with the files. As I did so, I looked up at the clock. It's already past 11, too late to go to an Italian restaurant. Maybe if it was a place that served alcohol.
まあ、チーズはたっぷり補給できたからいいけど。
Lopez glanced at the empty pizza box and empty cola bottle in the kitchen. Time passed steadily as we worked, and eventually we got hungry. There was a pizza delivery leaflet in my apartment, so we ordered an uncured ham and tomato pizza with extra cheese for dinner. I managed to stop Club Prez from going to the liquor store for some wine, which she claimed she could no longer work without. Yeah, you're probably too young for that.
トール、ワイン飲みたい。
Why would I have that in my apartment? I didn't really drink. Club Prez gave me a resentful face. I handed her the USB thumb drive and closed my laptop. Time to clean up, I was thinking that when I noticed that Club Prez was looking at me with a serious look in her eyes. I had a bad feeling about this.
普通女が自分の部屋でお酒飲みたいって言い出したらチャンスだと思わない？
If you were looking to take advantage of her. Not really.
もうこんな時間になっちゃったね。
What's with that candle line? It sounded so unnatural, like she was in a drama. It looked like she intended to keep up the act.
今日は帰りたくないな。
You can't just be bothered because you're tired.
その通りよ。だからトール、ワイン。
Go home. I can take you or you can just take a taxi because you're about to get paid.
タクシーなんて使ったらもったいないじゃない。
But it's okay to stay at a guy's apartment because it's a pain and then pester him for alcohol.
あら、トールってば私に何かするの？
And I recall you doing something to him. Why would I do that? Club Press was starting to sound like Saki. What are you going to do about a bath and change of clothes?
もういい。今日はこのまま寝るわ。
Oh boy. I'm guessing we're gonna end up dreaming together. I think that's where this is headed. She plodded over to my bed and laid down. Again, geez, your clothes will get wrinkly again. It was the same as last time. She took a nap after the work was done, and when she woke up, she complained that her clothes were all wrinkly.
じゃあ、トールの着替え貸して。チョイスは任せるから。
I don't know if I have a shirt that will cover your chest properly. Still lying down, Club Prez slapped the bed with the palms of her hands as though she's telling me to bring some over. Is anything fine? Wait, why are you taking your socks
だ
off?
ってこのまま寝るつもりだし。あ、一緒に寝る？寝たい？
She lazily grabbed the toes of her socks and pulled them off. The hem of her skirt was dangerously hiked up. I could almost see, but I wasn't sure if that was okay. No, I mean, why are you just matter-of-factly preparing to go to
こ
sleep?
の間だってベッド貸してくれたじゃない。
I think taking a nap and staying the night are completely different things. I had let Club Prez borrow it for a nap when she was tired before. Saki ended up finding out about it from a few stray hairs and the smell of her perfume. Saki's a little obsessed like that. If she ended up staying the night this time, there was no telling what would happen to me.
疲れて帰りたくないだけじゃないのよ。
Having thrown her socks to the side carelessly and sat up, Club Prez looked at me with a slightly serious expression. I doubt it's important enough to warrant staying the night at a man's apartment who isn't even your boyfriend, but just to hear you out. What are those other circumstances you speak
あ
of?
の夢の解明よ。
Oh, okay. Though I'd been silent until a second ago, I earnestly listened to her. What do you mean?
私はトールと違ってあの夢のことをよく覚えていられない。だけど、サキちゃんが巻き込まれた時みたいにトールの近くにいたらまた違う夢の見方をするかもしれないわ。
I mean, I wonder if this is gonna end badly, but we'll see. Maybe, but why are you so concerned about it, Club
どうしてっ
Prez?
てどういう意味？
It's true that we have bad dreams, but Alice and I are the only ones who remember. I think you should just wait until it ends and you wake
安
up.
心しなさい。別にトールがどうしても心配だなんて善意のつもりはないから。
So I'm guessing she doesn't remember that dirty dream that we had. Am I right to assume that?
好奇心。こんな不思議でわけのわからない体験してるのよ。もっと知りたいと思って何かおかしいのかしら？
No, I don't think so. I think that's perfectly normal, but I think Toru at least understands a little bit more that it's dangerous. Club Press smiled fearlessly, though I couldn't tell how serious she was. Though Yayoi seems to be pretty strong against, giving in to dreams. Don't blame me if you ruin yourself not in a dream, but in real life because you stayed at a place like this out of curiosity.
泊まっていく学校の先輩にトールがどんなことするかも気になるわね。
Not much if we go based off what he does to Saki.
どうする？一緒に寝る？いつも思ってたけど、このベッドって明らかに二人用よね。
Why can't a
どこで
man...
手に入れてきたの？
Why can't he just have, like, a queen-size bed? I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting more room to sprawl out, guys, okay? Just because you have a bed big enough for two doesn't mean there needs to be two in there all the time. I got it as a moving in present. I'm not sleeping with you.
どうして？さきちゃんとは一緒に寝るんでしょ？
Don't you think a sister and a senpai are a little different? I turned my back on Club Prez as she giggled inside to herself.
それでトール、
What is it? Apparently hell-bent on sleeping here, Club Prez hit the sack
着
again.
替え貸してくれないの？
I thought about handing her a dress shirt, but I had a bad feeling about what would be said to me later. Got out of a jersey I used for housewear and threw it at
意
her.
外と普通ね。こんなのでいいの？
I thought maybe I should at least give her a t-shirt, but just then I noticed that behind the spread-out jersey, Club Prez was grinning at me. I'm going to the convenience store, so take a shower and change while I'm gone. I'm sure she noticed my sour expression in the mirror. We're just gonna casually let her stay over, huh? Oh, so we're just skipping straight to the dream. Okay. Interesting. I dreamed again today, but today I flopped down the sofa as soon as I arrived in the dream.
どうしたのトール？もしかして私が来る前に変な夢でも見てた？
Just go ahead and think of it that way. Alice tilted her head at my answer. Luckily, Saki hadn't come today.
弥生は何か知ってる？大体は。だけど、あの時何を考えてたのかまではわからないかしら。
Lepres gave an unconcerned giggle as I sank into the sofa with an increasingly tired expression. I wasted some time flipping through the magazines at the convenience store before buying some food for tomorrow's breakfast and returning to my apartment. Lepres had finished taking her shower and she wore the jersey I lent her. That was good, but when I got back, the apartment was enveloped in her scent, or at least something similar. On top of that, she had a few choice words from the bed, so I couldn't calm down. As I laid on the sofa, I ended up spending much of my mental reserves trying to reach an understanding with some of the other impulses before finally falling asleep. I know exactly what he was talking about. But it looked like Club Prez wasn't going to tell Alice that she was spending the night at my place. She just gave her usual composed smile as she drank her tea.
二人とも何かあったの？何もなかったからトールが疲れてるのかしら。
Ah. Ignoring Alice's inquisitive head tilt, Club Prez placed her teacup on the table.
だけどトールって本当に眠ってる間に休んでないのね。よくこれまで大丈夫だったわね。
Yeah, we really don't. I think that's why this is all so exhausting for him. I wouldn't say that I'm okay. It was normal for me to wake up tired and feeling like I hadn't gotten any rest, plus I got headaches and vertigo a lot and sometimes even fainted. I thought Clippers knew about that too.
何言ってるの？今折り合いつけて生きてるじゃない。
Is that something you can really get used to? She wasn't saying that to act tough, she said it casually. My spine froze for a moment, because I understood what she meant when she said used to it.
普通に人付き合いもできるし、どこか破綻してるわけでもない。ほら、立派に大丈夫じゃない。
That's true. Yeah, apparently it's really rare for a person to be able to get under 6 hours of sleep and then have full cognitive function. Now, you can certainly, like, still go out throughout your day with less than 6 hours of sleep, right? But I guess you just mentally aren't 100% compared to as if you had gotten a full, like, 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep. And then there's some people who just don't sleep at all, and I don't know how they do that. Like, they sleep maybe an hour, 2, 3. I could never do that. I feel like I never get enough sleep, even when I sleep quite a bit. Certainly in that sense I was okay, but she didn't know the reason I was able to be that way.
ねえアリス、この夢って自分の意志で目を覚ませないの？どうだろう。少なくとも私とトールはそんなことできないけど。
I mean, I've said my theories for why Alice couldn't do that, but Toru, on the other hand, yeah, that's kind of interesting that he's kind of stuck here. I mean, he can kind of control things in here, right? Surprised that he can't recognize that he's in a dream and just force himself to wake up. I can do that. I definitely have times when I, like, kind of realize I'm dreaming because there's, like, really extreme things happening and I want to wake up. I've been able to force myself awake before. Apparently, having been focused on me as I sat limply, Alice seemed surprised, having been addressed suddenly.
ふん。じゃあ、例えばこんなのはどうかしら。
With a wave, a gun appeared to club President. Why is everyone summoning guns?
ちょっと、なんでそんなもの出してるの？どうやったの？だって私の夢でサキちゃんがやってたじゃない。なら私ができたっておかしくないでしょ？
This is slowly turning into Hello Lady, where everyone that's supposed to be in, like, high school or whatever just has guns and knows how to use them extensively. With panicking Alice in front of her, Club Press pressed the gun against her own temple. Huh? Before Alice or I could stop her, Club Press pulled the trigger. Oh, this is a good idea. Actually, I want to know what's going to happen here. I want to know if this wakes her up or not. With a high-pitched bang, Club Press fell to the floor. Club Press, hey, Club Press. Even if it was a dream, how could she be so reckless? Because didn't Maya say something about dying in dreams? I don't remember if she said it was like SAO or not, or if you die in the game, you die in reality. Shaking off my sluggishness, I hurriedly ran to Club Press. She twitched. Holding the place that she shot, Club Press rolled around on the ground. She seemed better off than I thought. She was rolling around so much I couldn't even approach her. I like how Alice just, like, expected this. Holding her head, Club Press looked up at Alice with tears in her eyes. Looking annoyed, Alice picked up the gun from the floor and it disappeared into the air in her hand.
ゲームじゃないんだし、それで目を覚ませたら誰も苦労しないってば。だけど、夢の中って驚いたり死ぬかもって時に目を覚まさない？
Oh, like when you fall from a great height. Yeah, that's pretty much what happened in the dream I was kind of referencing. Is like, I'm pretty sure I got hit by, like, a giant wave, like a tsunami, and then I woke up. Because, like, you would die if that happened, right? So, I don't know. In my experience, that woke me up. At least I woke myself up. Press nodded from where she sat on the ground. In my case, I was already used to that, so I didn't wake up.
それはあるけど、よく考えてよ、弥生。人が自分で自分を本気で殺すわけがないでしょ？とっさのところで知恵が入るんだから、うまくいくわけがないってそういうこと。
I helped Cobra to her feet. I could see the tears in her eyes. Must have really hurt. It's all because you tested it without asking.
だってできると思ったし。それにここで起きればトールにいたずらしに行けるじゃない？
So that was your motivation, huh? You wanted to mess with me while I slept.
だけどトールがそれに気づいたら止めるかなと思ったのよ。
What a thing to do on a whim. Here, show me where you shot yourself. I like how we're saying that so casually, like, oh, where did you injure yourself? You poor baby, you know, let me kiss it and make it better for you. She just shot herself. She didn't just fall. She tried to, like, off herself in the dream. She moved her hand. The spot was a little red. But the damage was too bad of an actual gunshot wound, obviously. pulled out a little salve that I imagined would heal it and spread it across the wound. Oh my gosh, you are a child. It will heal that much faster. This must have been what Club Prez imagined a highly effective medicine felt like.
というか本当に痛いなんて弥生痛くない方がいいなとか思わなかったの
That's a good point. I would imagine if I went and shot myself in the head, I would probably just not even remember what happened. Like I would just die and it wouldn't hurt. I wouldn't have time to hurt. But that's a good point.
なんでそんな甘いこと考えないとならないのよ
You call me naive. Her nose seemed to have started running from the shock of the medicine she sniffled once. By the time I finished spreading the salve, the red part had gone away completely. Things were pretty convenient in dreams.
まあいいんだけどいやよくないこんな無茶していいわけがない
I wonder what the implications of this are. So, like, my mind wouldn't allow me to imagine that something wouldn't hurt like that. I don't know. I'm wondering if I'm reading too much into the game sometimes, where they're kind of, like, explaining this stuff casually, and it's going to be relevant later as we get into more deeper and complex dreams with the characters. Or, I don't know. It could be relevant, it could not be.
心は体に引きずられるんだからこんな無理とか無茶はもうしないいい
The mind is influenced by the body. Interesting. I always tend to think of it opposite. Where the body can influence the mind. I don't know. The mind is influenced by the body. Sorry, I had a thought and I lost it.
はいはいこれからはもうちょっと考えてからにするわ
Alice sounded genuinely worried, but Club Press's response was half-hearted.
弥生分かってるわそういうものだっていうのは今ので理解した無駄なことはしないわよ
I wonder how much you really understand. Alice's tone made her sound annoyed. Even so, Club Prez did take a gun to her own head and it hurt enough to cause her to roll around on the ground. When I thought about what that meant, I felt a chill. What were dreams or reality to Club Prez? Was it okay for it to hurt so much? Did she think of it as something that hurts? And had she stayed at my apartment because she was wondering about it?
大丈夫よもう今みたいなことなんて繰り返さないから
I don't think you're stupid, so I'm not worried about that. That wasn't what worried me. Though she could be diligent and considerate, there was something reckless about her, and that worried me. I'm tired from that job we just finished, so don't do anything else weird today.
あれが終わった以上これから好き勝手遊んで回ろうと思ったのに
Is Silver trying to imply that maybe she's... I guess just one way you could go about looking at it is that she's depressed, maybe? Like, she just doesn't... She doesn't have enough value in her life at the moment, and she's just willing to do risky things and have risky behavior because of that. And I'll have to keep reading into that. I didn't know how serious she was. I heaved a sigh. Yeah, I definitely feel like depressed people maybe have a little bit less concern for their well-being at times. Polar opposites.
別に私のことなんて誰も知らないだから私がどんな歌を歌おうがらしいとからしくないとか思われることはないだから私はその時々に歌いたいと思った歌を歌う伝えたいことなんてないただ歌いたいだけだから返事なんて期待していない一方通行上等むしろ戻ってくるなんて勘弁してほしいそんな私に話しかけてくる人がいるそんな人たちに私は一つだけ聞きたいことがあったねえどうしたらあなたはゆっくり眠ることができるようになるんですか
Is that supposed to be Seiko? Is that her name? It was December, and second semester was almost over. Once the semester ended and winter break began, we would have Christmas, New Year's Eve, and New Year's Day in quick succession. But before that, we students had exams waiting for us. If you botched those up, then your year-end events would be filled with supplementary classes and assignments. At Tsukio Academy, you could usually advance the next grade through the escalator system, but if your test scores were bad, there were various things you had to do so you didn't flunk. I placed my mechanical pencil on my desk and stretched until I could hear my spine popping. In front of me were the notes I'd taken in class and the loose leaf bundle which I'd collected, what I needed for tests. It's late. According to my alarm clock, which I'd moved to my desk, it was already past midnight. I had school tomorrow. If I didn't get to sleep soon, I wouldn't be able to get up. Although I was studying late like this, it wasn't like the tests were going to begin tomorrow. I couldn't afford to exert too much now, and I didn't really feel like studying in the first place. It wasn't like there was a school I wanted to go to after I graduated, and I wasn't thinking about exams yet either, and yet lately I've been staying up late studying. It wasn't like there was a school... oh, sorry, I didn't advance the line. The reason was simple. I don't want to sleep. My chair creaked as I leaned back on it. I let my hands fall listlessly to my sides, but that wouldn't change reality. I would go to that room if I dreamed. Having gotten Club Prez involved recently, the tea party in the room had gotten even livelier. I didn't dislike seeing those people there. If the dream just ended with that room, then there would be no problem. The problem was Maya's existence. Just Maya appearing would be a problem for me, but on top of that, she was inviting us into nightmares. Just thinking about how I might have that dream made me feel like my mind was being worn away little by little, whether I was used to it or not. But if I slept, that's where I would end up. It wasn't something to be proud of, but I was never really good at studying. I figured that if I got all worn out from concentrating on my studies, then I wouldn't have the energy to dream, and I'd be able to sleep. Well, that endeavor failed spectacularly. For the past few days, I studied hard before I went to sleep, but last night and the night before that, I ended up right back at the tea party. Then again, I dreamt that time Saki slept over. Even though I took one of the pills I got from Club Prez, so I had a vague notion that I wouldn't be able to escape it just because I was tired. Studying like this, knowing how fruitless it would be, felt like a waste, but I was too stubborn to quit. And at the tea party, we weren't just hanging out lazily like we usually did, as Club Prez had kindly put it.
この時期に勉強時間増えてラッキーだわ。
And she started to use that time to cram for her exams. I didn't know exactly how accurate the reference books she brought into the dream were, but the stuff I had learned was at least correct. Lepress was smart, but she was also a hard worker who took her studies seriously. That's a smart idea, using the time in the dream to study or do something like that. Learn skills. Might as well if you're just gonna be forced to not get good rest anyways. Plus, she was a caring person, so she helped me study. Then Saki and Alice had gotten involved, and we all started cramming for exams together. Wonder if it'll happen again today. I didn't mind that, actually. Maya sometimes showed up out of the blue, but she didn't really bother us when we were studying. In fact, I sort of got the feeling she had a gentle expression on her face as she watched over us. Huh. The fact that she looked to me like she was saying there's no point in doing that was certainly just me being paranoid. Then was I selfish for not wanting to sleep despite that? When would we next get caught up in someone's dream, and would it be my dream? So far, everyone had been able to come back, but there was no guarantee that would continue to be the case. In the end, if it was a dream, would I be able to make it back? Thinking of that made me scared to sleep. Maybe I'll go outside. Interesting. So Maya kind of talking about there might not be a point to doing that. But at the same time, it looks like she has a gentle expression on her face as she watched over us. I'm really conflicted on what that means, because like I said, I don't think Maya is the big bad villain that the game has kind of made her out to be so far. I definitely think we don't fully understand her character yet. I think there's more to her that we need to learn first. I think in a way she does genuinely care about us. But at the same time, I don't know. She does kind of make it hard sometimes. I really am curious to know more about her. I'll just say that. I know I have a little ways to go before I'll probably get some answers, but I'm curious to see if she really is more on the evil side, or she's just being mischievous, or what necessarily is going on there. If I continued to worry in my apartment, it seemed like I would be confined to unpleasant thoughts, and more importantly, I would get sleepy. Call it trying to escape reality, or rather trying to escape my dreams. Yeah, most people run into their dreams to escape reality. We're running into reality to escape dreams. Very ironic. I put on my coat and decided to go for a little walk to get away from my current situation. I'm not slacking off or running away. I'm just going to buy some coffee at the local convenience store because I'm tired. I set out humming half-assedly. When I got to the convenience store, they were out of the coffee I usually drank. It wasn't vital for me to have the exact brand, but I was stubborn and now had an excuse to go looking for it. I wandered around seeking my coffee. Next thing I knew, I'd come to the front of the train station. I've walked quite a ways. I finally been able to get what I'd been after, but I never thought I'd come this far. On top of that, the sky was looking ominous. It had smelled like a winter storm was approaching for a while now. When I looked up, the clouds were bulky. No longer had an excuse for taking a walk, so I figured it'd be best if I headed home quick. Just as I thought that, the raindrops finally started falling. Not good. So we just had a little bit of a dialogue from a certain character. I wonder if we're going to meet her out here. This was the place we previously were introduced to her. Of course, I hadn't brought an umbrella. Though it was winter, the rain started coming down all at once. At this rate, maybe they'll ease up soon. I heard they took shelter under the eaves of a nearby building. I leaned against the automatic doors, which weren't opening, and looked up at the sky. It was a cold, sleety kind of rain. I really wasn't in the mood to run home through this. I wish it would ease up a little. I gave a small, exasperated sigh. I was a little annoyed at myself for going for a walk because I didn't want to sleep and getting caught in this rain. I would have to sleep eventually anyway. Not sleeping would just cause me to doze off or faint at school again. Was this rain a punishment or something for making excuses and running away despite all that? Well, there's no way the weather would change for one person. It's not like this was a dream. Suddenly a disturbing thought came to my mind and I snapped my fingers. Stop, rain. I willed for it to happen. If this was a dream of mine, the rain would probably stop or weaken, but nothing of the sort happened. I'm sorry, whenever I think of that, I just think of Inception, where he has that thing spinning, and if it continues to spin, that's how you know you're in the dream. But if it falls, that's how you're aware that you're in reality. Lots of interesting references in this game. I mean, I know that's not really referencing, but in my mind, it references it. It's kind of a similar concept. Just as I breathed a sigh of relief, a figure suddenly entered my field of vision. They must have gotten caught in the rain like me. They didn't have an umbrella, but they carried a large case looking like more than a meter long. When I approached the street, I realized who the figure was. Hirasaka. Real quick before we let her talk more, some of y'all said that she's going to end up becoming one of my favorite characters. So I'm very curious to know what about her would necessarily attract me to her as far as a person, you know? I'm excited that we're going to get to know her a little bit more here. And I find it interesting that we're getting to know her through these like very chance encounters compared to some of the other characters that we see regularly. I mean, I know that she's a little bit different, right? Because... Or Keiko, that's her name. I think I said Seiko, and her name is Keiko. Keiko is different because she's not necessarily in the main building like some of the rest of the characters are. So we do kind of have to encounter her maybe like in passing. Hirasaka walked with the sleety rain, seemingly not minding it at all. What are you doing? Look how hard it's raining. She stopped when I called out to her, so I took her hand and pulled her under the eaves with me. Geez, you're soaking wet. Hirasaka looked away from me, more as though it were a hassle than because she felt awkward. So I was just talking about Yayoi possibly being a little bit depressed, a little bit of a disregard for her well-being. I feel like Hirasaka has the same problem. Oh my gosh. Sorry, something in my room just like fell down next to me and scared me. Anyways, I feel like they both kind of have this problem. Maybe that's the secret in this game. Everybody's just depressed. The guitar case she was carrying was as wet as she was. Either she didn't care or it was waterproof because she made no attempt to cover it. What are you doing out this late? Were you singing outside again? I was relieved to hear that. Public order around here was pretty good. If you frolicked even a little, there was a local security company that could be dispatched. Even so, it had its limits. You can't just hang around outside in public? I mean, that's kind of lame. There's no place for a girl to walk around alone at night. For the time being, I'll take you home. I'll have to buy an umbrella at a nearby convenience store. Even if the rain eased up, I didn't want to run through it carrying her guitar. Hirasaka was already soaked to the bone, so we needed an umbrella, if only as a consolation.
いえ、結構です。大丈夫ですから。
Hey, what if something happens to you? I didn't think there would be any weirdos wandering around in the rain, but I was still
そ
worried.
の時はその時じゃないですか。
You know, that's not a terrible way to go through life sometimes. Worry about it when it happens. I mean, it's good to be prepared for situations, but yeah, sometimes it's like you can't just sit there obsessing over things that might happen. Her apathy annoyed me. It wasn't like I was trying to force her to do it, but it wasn't good for her to care so little about herself. You...
私のことです。先輩には関係ないことじゃないですか。
I would feel guilty if an acquaintance got caught up in some trouble. You understand that, right? Hirasaka looked
今バカ
offended.
にしませんでしたか。
A little, but anyways, it's late, so go home. I'll forcibly walk you there if I have to. Come on.
無理やり送られても私家に入れないので結局どこかに行くしかないんですけど。
You have a bad home situation? What's going on? What do you mean you can't get into your house? It was late, but what could she have meant by can't get into her house? Did she run away? Was she thrown out? A plethora of scenarios came to mind.
なくしましたから家に誰もいませんし今夜は帰ってきません。
Oh, okay. I mean, that's better. I mean, I'm not complaining that you have a bad situation. Just, that's very normal, losing a key, huh? She's surprisingly calm despite the moderate to serious situation she was in. I guess Japan doesn't put an extra key under their mat, like a lot of people do. Or in a plant. It's another popular place. You lost your keys.
なので無理です。
Hirasaka squeezed her guitar case. She didn't look nearly as troubled as the situation demanded. Then what were you planning to do tonight?
さあ今日はとりあえずその辺でどうにかしようと思ったんですけど。
You were just gonna make do in the rain, huh? Looked up at the sky, but it was still gloomy. The rain was a little lighter than it had been, but it was still falling. Is there a cafe with a shower around here? Or maybe like a capsule hotel? No, Hirasaka seemed to have a lot of money, so maybe a regular hotel would work.
そんなところがあるんですか。
No, I mean, really, what were you planning on doing? I asked her again. I didn't know whether she was just unfamiliar with manga cafes or whether she hadn't thought of anything.
さあなるようになったんじゃないですか。
You're a very carefree, go with the person, or go with the flow kind of person. There we go. Words are hard. Hirasaka really looked like she didn't care. I thought about just throwing her into a place she could stay the night and then going home, but unfortunately I didn't know of any places like that. My stupid talks to Tetsuya, I'd heard of love hotels, but of course I couldn't take her there. Yeah, that would be weird.
先輩はおせっかい焼かなくても大丈夫ですよ。お気になさらず。
I mean, that's very concerning that you're locked out of your house. If I was the kind of person who could not worry after all this, then my life would be much easier. To not worry, how wonderful it would be if I was capable of that. Ah, geez, fine. At this rate, you'll catch a cold, so come to my place to let you use my shower.
先輩の家ですか。だけど家族がいるんじゃないですか。
Ah, so this is how they're going to introduce her to the dreams, huh? Probably shouldn't have got her involved, if I'm going to be honest. Looking at it from the perspective of everything that's happened to us so far, this is a bad idea. Live by myself. What's that face
何
for?
でもありません。先輩がどうしてもそうしたいならそれでいいです。
You definitely changed your tone rather quickly, because you were just saying don't worry about you. And now you're like, oh, if you insist then. She looked like she was thinking something bad, but in this case there's all the more reason not to leave her alone. But maybe she was a little more accepting of it because he kind of came up with a plan, rather than just throwing out some ideas. He had a more definitive answer on something. I heaved a grand sigh, and likes of which I hadn't heaved lately. Then I decided to go buy an umbrella at a nearby convenience store. In the meantime, Hirasaka waited for me, and all the while looking like she couldn't care less. I'll say Hirasaka definitely is a character that shows that she's probably a little bit sad or depressed on the outside compared to Yayoi, who tries to hide it. But like I said, I'm not 100% sure that Yayoi has that, but it definitely feels like we're getting hinted at it. Went back to my apartment in the rain. Hirasaka had been fully exposed to the rain until I found her, so she was soaking wet. At this rate, it seemed likely that she'd catch a cold. The umbrella I'd bought had wasn't terribly handy either. This was because Hirasaka was trying harder to keep her guitar dry than herself. I couldn't tell whether she valued it or not, but when I tried to carry it, she wouldn't let me. For now, you'd better take a shower before you catch a cold. As we entered the apartment, I threw a bath towel at Hirasaka, who finally put down her guitar case. This is gonna be the classic trope of, you know, if you're out in the rain, you're gonna catch a cold. It always happens. Without fail. I'll go in later. You're more soaked than me, after all. After driving Hirasaka into the bathroom, I realized something. Oh, you need to change of clothes. Hey! Hirasaka was already in the bathroom and carelessly throwing her clothes at me through the crack in the door. This included her skirt and underwear, of course. Hirasaka asked, poking her head out from behind the door. I could see her bare shoulder and suddenly felt a sense of danger. Danger from her or danger from yourself? No, that's fine. Perfectly fine. Was I being overcautious even though I was the one who brought my underclassmen all the way here and letting her use my shower? Hirasaka disappeared back into my bathroom. Somehow managing to stifle my inner panic, I thought about what I should do next. Barge in or peek. Hey, yo! My guy. So, Yayoi, no, would never touch her. Saki, no, wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole. But as soon as the underclassman shows up, barge in or peek? Okay, my guy, I see how it is. You like him young. Shook those thoughts out of my head as fast as they came inside. As the first not stupid thoughts came to my mind, the first thing I realized was that I wasn't actually that wet. I dried my coat that was damp from the rain and threw my socks and such in the laundry basket. I would need to dry Hirasaka's clothes too. My hair would be fine if I just dried it a bit with the blow dryer. As I was doing so, I heard the sound of the shower from the other side of the door. I froze in place. Come on now. It wasn't like this the first time a girl had taken a shower in my apartment. Saki had done it plenty of times. You know, Toru, for being a very shy guy, not one to make a move or anything, you certainly have a lot of girls that come into your apartment. A lot. That didn't mean I was used to it, though. Even with Saki, it froze when I became conscious of it, and hell usually broke loose after that. I figured there was something wrong with a man if he got used to situations like this. I mean, maybe when you're younger. I think as you get older, and you get married, and it just kind of happens very often, you don't think of it as much. There was a naked girl on the other side of the door taking a shower. Was it really my fault for thinking about it? I forced the urge that welled up within me down with my self-control, which had been honed over many years. At the same time, it wiped up the drops of water on the floor. I'm composed. Calm now. What a spectacular escape from reality. As I resisted, my eyes went to the wet guitar case still sitting next to the entrance. I would have felt bad wiping it off with the same thing I used for the floor, so I got out a new hand towel. As I wiped off the rain, I suddenly noticed something. When I think of a guitar case, I think of them as having various stickers stuck all over them. Like stickers from music clubs and the sort. But Hirasaka's guitar case, although it had plenty of scratches and stains, there was no decorations of any kind. There was no indications of her being in a band or anything like that. It was just the instrument. There was nothing accompanying it. Almost like she was treating it like a violin case or something. To her, the guitar was a simple instrument. It wasn't like everyone who played a guitar was in a band. Normally I would have been able to think like that, but perhaps because of Hirasaka's words, I thought of something unnecessary. So long as she could sing, it was fine. It was good that no one noticed. Why did Hirasaka sing?
Senpai.
What is it? When I turned around, Hirasaka was poking out her face from behind the door again. She was leaning out further than she did before, and I could see the upper part of her chest. She has no boobs. I think it was pure escapism that I was calm enough to think that.
後からって言ってましたけど、いつ入ってくるのかと思いまして。
Huh? Couldn't understand what she was saying.
てっきり後から一緒に入ってくるものかと。
Is that what you wanted? No, I'm gonna take one after you're finished. Hiding my agitation with all my might, I played the gentleman. Thanks to Saki, I had plenty of opportunities to hone my self-control, but for some reason I couldn't feel happy about those experiences coming in handy.
そうですか。それならそれでいいんですけど。
She sounds disappointed. Not closing the door all the way, she pulled in a bath towel. And I remembered that I still hadn't prepared a change of clothes for Hirasaka. Saki always brought her own stuff when she came over. Wear this for now, I'll dry your clothes. I hurriedly grabbed some long-hemmed shirts of mine and put them near the door. Placed the shirt I received at Saki's house, which was big even for me, where the towel had been. Then I threw Hirasaka's clothes into the washing machine. Thank you, all-in-one washing machine with a fully automatic drying function. Why does this sound like an advertisement? As I thought this, I tried not to be conscious of what I was grabbing and throwing into it. Paid no heed to the fact that both the upper and bottom halves were light blue.
着替えありがとうございます。
Why did we have to do this? Why would you hand her a dress shirt like this? I feel like this is just asking for trouble. Hirasaka came out obediently wearing the shirt I had given her, even though there were other articles of clothing available. For some reason, she was wearing only that shirt. The shirt was pretty long, but it still seemed dangerous. Yeah, it does look pretty dangerous.
こういうのが趣味なんですか?
Going up to slightly too long sleeves, Hirasaka sounded a little annoyed. To be honest, I'm a little partial to it. I wanted to say something about it being a coincidence, but it wasn't enough. I wasn't enough of a gentleman to be able to deny it when Hirasaka was dressed like that. I wanted to be honest about what I
まあ
liked.
別にいいですけど。
She shrugged it off. I had a hard time trying to tell what she was
先
thinking.
輩もシャワー浴びるんですよね。
Oh, yeah. I didn't really feel the need, and I thought it might be weird to go in after Hirasaka, but then I realized this was the only place I could take refuge at this time. There's a dryer over there to dry your hair, and please don't go through my stuff.
さすがに恩をあだで返すような真似はしません。
That's nice of you. I decided to trust Hirasaka for the time being and take my shower. I really wanted to calm myself down. Like, could you not have given her some pants? After my brief shower, I changed into my indoor clothes and came out. Hirasaka was sitting on my bed waiting. I was relieved to see that she had dried her hair properly. According to the dryer, whether it was because there was a large amount or because the clothes were wetter than I thought, it would still be a while before Hirasaka's clothes were dry. At this rate, it'll take all night to dry your clothes, not that it can be helped. Dang, what kind of dryer do you have? That's terrible. Taking that long? I mean, I could see like an hour or two, but I don't know any dryer that would take all night. It looked like she'd have to stay the night.
別に出て行っても構いませんけど。
How could I tell you to get out after all this? If I could do that, then I just wouldn't have brought her to my... I wouldn't have brought her here in the first place, just saying. Well then, I'll have to make a place for me to sleep. I could just probably sleep on the sofa like when Saki forcefully stayed over. Us sharing a bed in her most recent sleepover was not in a way how it usually panned out, and it was a bit of an emergency. I didn't expect her to threaten me like that. Just then Hirasaka tilted her head, looking mystified for some reason.
別々なんですか?
Is this your way of coming on to me? Is that why you accepted my invitation to have you come over? Are you just trying to come on to me? Like you wanted me to just join you in the shower, and now you're disappointed that we're not sleeping together. But I get the feeling I've heard this conversation before. Suddenly I thought the face of my self-proclaimed sister smiling at me with a set of cold, unmoving eyes.
てっきり一晩泊める代わりに見返りを要求してくると思っていたんですが。
You have a very, twisted outlook on life. I don't know where you got that idea from. Well, I'm sure that probably happened somewhere in this world. Certainly this wasn't something outside of the realm of possibility. I raised my glasses and rubbed my brow, wondering whether I should ask or not before finally deciding to say it. I want to know what her backstory is. I'm wondering if there's like a really interesting past. Because she's very weird. She's kind of like when I adopted my cat from a shelter, and my cat did weird things, like dipping her paw into like cups, and that's like the only way she would want to drink water, until I got her used to like just drinking out of a bowl. I don't know, just... I guess she was just kind of used to like the streets or something. I don't feel like she was really in a good environment. She was either on the street or in a home that was very dysfunctional, and she didn't act like a normal cat, you know? And that's kind of the impression I'm getting from Hirasaka. Like maybe her childhood was a little bit different. Let's just say that. Hey Hirasaka, this is probably none of my business, but I don't think that sort of thing is good.
そうですね。一般的にはそうだと思います。
She's aware that that's the common perspective and that she doesn't share that, so obviously her upbringing was not common.
ならも何も。私も今日が初めてですけど。
Jeez, why are you saying that? And do you really think I'm the sort of guy who would demand such a thing in return?
思うも何も。私と先輩の付き合いってそれがわかるほどはないと思いませんか?
That's true. I'm surprised you agreed to come to the apartment of someone like that.
先輩はその ひどいことはしなさそうでしたから。
Oh, well, that's good. You were trusting of me. For some reason, she blushed and looked away. Her reaction made me a little uncomfortable. It stirred far too many emotions. She was sitting on the bed, so her thighs were completely visible. I could see under the hem of the shirt. Also, she left way too many buttons undone. And unintentionally, I imagined there's something in return that Hirasaka was talking about. If I said I was going to do it, what would you do?
初めてなので、できるだけ優しくしてもらえると助かります。
Anime tropes. Okay, let's dial that down a notch. Especially me, I took a deep breath and calmed down a little.
先輩。
Hirasaka peeked at me in such a way that I could almost see down her shirt. I wasn't going to be calming down anytime soon. Just so you know, I'm not going to do
いいん
anything.
ですか？
That compensation would be seriously one-sided, and I can't make a trade like that.
つまり、誰かが釣り合えば、初めての相手でも先輩はするんですね。
Okay, she's got you there. That's pretty much like what you were implying. If it were fair, well, if you really want to give me something in return for letting you say, you can just buy me lunch or something. To be honest, getting to see Hirasaka dressed like this was more than enough compensation for me. Hirasaka thought for a
本当
moment.
に何もしなくていいんですか？世の中には、その、最後までしないで済ませる方法もあるって聞いてますけど。
Yes, yes, there is. Why are we having this conversation? Totally remember the dream I had with Club Breaks. That's what I was thinking of too. Oh. It's like I skipped through it, but unless like I'm really like holding down the button and looking away, which I don't do because I need to see where it ends. I saw what happened. I know what happened. We certainly finished without going all the way, but that was not good. Just remembering it has started to make me think, well, that would be fine, wouldn't it? This was reality, not the world of dreams. Besides, it wasn't okay to do it just because I was a dream either. You know, it still wouldn't be fair. And what are you saying, even though you have no
未
experience?
経験というのが嘘だったらどうします？
I would actually find that interesting because a lot of these games I play, it's strange to me that none of them have experience. These games tend to get a little sexual at times, right? Like, you know, you have H scenes, that's to be expected, right? I think it's very weird that most of them involve characters that have never had a first time, they never had experience. I mean, I know that's kind of appealing to this fantasy of like, oh, we're the main character and this is our first time, and you know, she's a virgin, right? I think it's more interesting though when characters do have experience because that makes them feel more like real people to me rather than just a character that someone wrote, you know? I like characters that have experience sometimes. I mean, not every character has to, that's fine. I just like when there is a few that do. So it's not just like, I don't know, it doesn't feel realistic to me anymore. I wouldn't do anything. It doesn't matter to me whether it's true or not. And even if you are used to that sort of thing, I won't do anything. It's none of my business. I would just need a pillow and blanket since I would let Hirasaka use the bed, and maybe we should sleep with a heater on. Her sleepwear was too light to be called sleepwear after all.
私、本当に経験ないですよ。
I see, and what's wrong with that? Hirasaka seemed somewhat annoyed that I wasn't giving her my full attention.
普通、男の人ってこういう機会があったら襲ってくるものじゃないんですか？
It sounds like you want him to. Like, you keep saying things like that like you're expecting him to. Not just because you feel like you owe him something, but because you want him to do something. Maybe about half of them. They would probably make a move they weren't thinking. Maybe she was expecting us inviting her back to our apartment to be like more of a move, and maybe she's like, how dense is this guy? I have no idea though. I answered vaguely as I prepared blankets. If I seriously paid her any attention, my self-control would give out. Hirasaka was pretty after all, so as a guy, this situation was difficult to deal with.
後先ですか？
Right, like maybe they have a girlfriend or someone else they like, or they aren't their type, or if they've actually considered the consequences. Don't go thinking that all men are monkeys that live by instinct.
その中に先輩の理由はあるんですか？
Mine is that I've considered the consequences for both of us. And in my case, I was getting used to turning down advances from women. Although if someone heard that, they would probably think it's an insult to men everywhere. I don't think there's anything wrong with, as a guy, like, not just jumping on every situation that you have to do something. I mean, I think it's more important that it's with a person you'd actually care about doing something like that with, and perhaps the right moment to do it too. If we want to be honest, there's a lot of reasons not to just have spontaneous sex with people, especially if you're not properly prepared. And I say that mentally, and also to have something physical on you, so you don't you don't do what Neko was trying to do in Clockwork Leyline, where she wanted to have a certain something with Koga. Yeah, don't do that, because that's life changing, and that should be planned out rather than spontaneous. Okay, enough aside. I tossed Hirasaka a futon. She caught it and buried her face in it.
あ、先輩の布団なんかいい匂いしますね。
Okay, are you just into us? Like, okay, just tell him. Just say, hey, I'm into you, and I'm really like flattered you invited me back to your apartment. And I thought this was gonna be something more. Just say it. If that's what you're trying to say, just tell him. Okay? Please stop saying things that are hard to respond to. As I continued preparations, Hirasaka looked at me, still holding the futon. I was grateful that she wasn't saying anything else weird, but I couldn't calm down with her watching me either. Oh, I've got it. In that case, I want you to tell me your
事
circumstances.
情ですか？いえ、
She's so into him. She's
ス
so
ネーカージ
thirsty.
なんてそのうち捨てることになるんですから。先輩なら優しそう。
I mean, I'm gonna wait till I get to know her character more, because I feel like this is a very narrow look into her personality and who she is. But I'm like, maybe she's just the kind of person that wants to get together with the first person who treats them nicely. Because she doesn't have a lot of experience, you just kind of get infatuated with the first person that treats you nicely, or that treats you in a way that kind of aligns with like how you think that situation would go. I don't know. I guess I'm saying she's a little naive, is what I'm trying to imply. Not that losing your keys is one thing, but I want you to know. I want to know why you were wandering around like that. Yeah, first she loses her keys, then she loses her virginity. That would be quite the day. If that conversation continued, I'd be the one who'd be uncomfortable. But that aside, I sensed similar feelings from Hirasaka. It was like she was running away, or that she had given up after not knowing what to do. I didn't want to get into her circumstances too deeply, but I'd be worried if stuff like this
ちょっ
continued.
とした家出です。どうせ気づかないし、気にしないと思いますけど。
So your home situation isn't the best. I mean, I kind of guessed that, but I was waiting for it to be confirmed a little bit more. Hirasaka sulked a little as she held the
私
futon.
の家、誰も帰ってきませんから。外泊しようがどうせ気づきません。
So your parents are always gone. Either, I'm assuming either from work, or they just kind of go out and party, maybe. Maybe they're alcoholics, maybe they're drug addicts, who knows. Up until now, she made it look like she didn't care about anything, but now she finally started looking her age. Yeah, I'm definitely enjoying her character more as I'm getting to know it, because now she's starting to feel relatable to me. I mean, I think just wanting to jump into bed with the first person you meet, I don't know if it would quite go that way. But I could definitely see that she doesn't really have any attachment to anything at home. And I've definitely known some people like that as I've grown up. I mean, male and female, right? Like, I've definitely met people like that kind of just wanted to run away, or maybe even people that have run away in the past, and could definitely relate to this character. I felt like I'd seen the first signs of emotion from
も
her.
っとも、気づいたところで心配もしないでしょうけど。
You just live with your dad then? Not so. I couldn't put on airs to say no parent doesn't worry about their child, or don't worry about them. I mean, so as a parent myself, I definitely worry about my daughter all the time, right? But she's not really old enough to where she's going out and doing things by herself, and she's not at the age where I would ever leave her at home alone. But that is definitely something I would be concerned about, right? As a parent, I do care about my child, and I don't see that ever changing, right? Because she's important to me. But I will say I have seen parents that are a little more carefree. And just, I mean, I try to let my daughter kind of experience things. You know, she's not that old yet. But I try to let her have experiences where I know, like, oh, like, hey, you're probably gonna fall right there, or you're probably gonna hurt yourself, and I kind of just let it happen sometimes, as long as it's not too serious, because that's how you learn, right? And in a more extreme version, as you get older, letting your child who's a teenager, right, like just kind of make choices and experiences that that'll probably get you hurt. Maybe not physically, but maybe emotionally, right? You kind of let your child maybe date people that you don't really approve of, or things like that, or that you think won't be. You think maybe it'll just end in heartbreak, right? Like I could definitely say I would care, but I would still let them do it. Versus, I think there's a lot of parents who would just let their children go out and do whatever, and not care. Like, just like, hey, you're growing up, you need to learn and you need to toughen up. Like, I think there's a difference between letting someone do something caringly, right? Because you do need to learn as you grow up. You do need to start making choices for yourself, versus like a parent who just like lets their kid do anything and doesn't worry about the consequences for them. Guessing I'm guessing her dad, if she only lives with her dad, just kind of lets her do whatever, because maybe he's more busy taking care of himself. But it's hard being a parent, I'll say that. I try not to judge people right away that I see are kind of those kind of parents where they just let their kid do anything and don't worry about the consequences, because we don't know what their circumstances are. As Toru is saying right here, there's just a family whose circumstances I didn't know. I think that's very important to remember when you're looking at people, not to judge them too harshly or too quickly, because you don't know. Hirasaka's family, maybe that's how it was. Even though it wasn't the case around me, I harbor no illusions that adults were all people of character.
自分の仕事が大事な人ですからおじのところに預けておけばとりあえず私は安心なんでしょうし
Okay, so he just likes to work a lot. I can definitely relate to that, because my dad is someone who puts work above anything else, and it's really hampered a lot of his family relationships. I'll just say that. He leaves me with my uncle, so he won't have to worry about me. Okay. Come to think of it, she did say she was the school president's niece. I've been wondering which of Hirasaka's parents were related to him. From the way she was speaking, it was doubtful whether she even had both parents. Oh yeah, I'm definitely assuming her mom's not in the picture. Either she's divorced, passed away, maybe she just kind of abandoned the family, who knows. But that was no reason for Hirasaka to get hurt. Your family circumstances are none of my business, but I wasn't thinking of doing anything aggrandizing. That's an interesting word. I don't think I've ever heard that. Like getting deeply involved or doing something about her problems. The hand I could extend for the sake of other people's happiness wasn't that long. If you want to vent, I'll listen to you. All I can say is I don't want to do anything too reckless.
愚痴ですか
That's kind of sus, venting. Yeah, I don't want to get all haughty and say don't do this or that, but it just worries me for someone like you to be wandering around at night. It'd be difficult for me if Hirasaka got entangled with some weirdo or got hurt because of it. Just a self-righteous way of reaching out my hand just because I wanted peace of mind. I didn't want to step into her family's problems, but I could at least lend an ear.
別に先輩にはそこまで気にしてもらわなくても大丈夫です
Maybe you are, but Hirasaka tilted her head like a small animal. Not entirely sure as to what I was alluding to, my self-control wavered briefly, but I restrained myself. Julie had a way of endearing herself into a man's heart, a way that was different from Saki. You said that it was your first time, so you wanted me to be gentle. If you keep wandering around like this, then even that wish might not come true. For some reason, she glared at me with upturned eyes. The worthless part of me thought, so I'll be gentle with you now, but I endured it. If you don't want that, then you can vent to me. We could just talk at a family restaurant somewhere.
人に愚痴を言ってもどうにもならないじゃないですか
Really, it makes you feel better, doesn't it? The relationship between me and Club Prez was a lot like that. We vented about things that were hard to talk to about to other people and let us laugh together without getting too deeply into it. We were friends, but we didn't poke our noses into each other's privacy, so we got along well enough. It was a strange but trusting relationship. Maybe that's why me and Club Prez were able to keep things the way they were after that dream. Hirasaka and I might end up like that too, though if we didn't, I wouldn't have minded. But Hirasaka looked away from me, not seeming to care.
そんなの面倒です。
I see. Well, that's all for now. If we don't go to sleep, we won't be able to get up tomorrow. It was it had already been late when I picked up Hirasaka, so it was really late now. But Hirasaka was still sitting on the bed looking at me as I laid on the sofa. Is there something else?
そんな優しいんだかそうだかわからない変なことを言われるより、いっそ乱暴に襲われた方が気が楽でした。
So you're used to people doing that.
先輩は本当におせっかいです。
Hirasaka showed her dissatisfaction by climbing into the futon, turning her back towards me. Even if I had made a move on her, it wouldn't have solved anything. In fact, I'd probably just regret it. Still, I was a little worried about whether we'd be able to make it through the night without anything happening. If I got caught in that dream, maybe I won't wake up until morning. Yeah, I have a feeling she's gonna get dragged into the dream, too. So here I was again. Anyways, guys, I'm going to end the video here because I made it a little bit longer because I really wanted to get into it. And it's been kind of like a week or more since I recorded one. So I think it's important that I give you guys something to watch, right? And I'm trying to get back into the story again. I got to say, though, I'm starting to understand why you guys think I'm going to like Keiko. Because I didn't think it would happen that quick, but I'm already like really liking her character a lot more now that we're getting past this kind of facade where she's just like talking about maybe us taking advantage of her. I like her character because I can relate to it. Keiko has this aura of being numb to things because she's been kind of hurt in the past and she's had points where she's probably had to deal with hard things and her mind kind of had to protect her from some of that, and it made her numb and made her kind of maybe different than other people. And I have absolutely had that happen to me in my life. I had a close family member that died, and that was one of many things that kind of spiraled, got really depressed, and just stopped looking at life like it was important. Just kind of went with emotions, and that kind of happened on and off as I went throughout my teenage years, right? And I think that's pretty common. I think for some people, not everybody feels exactly probably the same way I did, but I'd imagine a lot of people did. It's a time when you're kind of learning about yourself and learning who you are and what your interests are. And I was a person who kind of like beat myself up for things and kind of blamed myself when things went wrong. And just chose to kind of maybe hide from problems rather than face them and work through them. So she's talking about right here. Let's see. Bending doesn't help. I was very much a person who thought talking about issues did not help. And as I got older and kind of got to a point where maybe I was ready to talk about things, I found that venting very much did help. And he's talking about, you know, going to a cafe with her and how he kind of talks to Yayoi and they talk through problems and she sees that as a pain. And I guess a part of me really did see that as being a pain for a long time as well. And she just kind of assumed the worst in people. Maybe stopped being as trusting. I'm not going to say I necessarily assumed the worst in people, but I definitely became less trusting of people unless they really like, I don't know, stood out to me in some way. I just even some close friends I didn't talk to about my problems, and especially family. I never would have gone to them about things. So I guess I do kind of relate to her character in a way. So definitely liking Keiko a lot more now that I'm getting to know her. She's definitely an interesting, almost weird girl. She's strange, to say the least. But I'm excited to see how they kind of expand upon her character and how we kind of grow closer to her. I'm assuming we're going to start doing that here soon because we're going to be dreaming. And I'd imagine she's going to get sucked into the dream as well. I mean, I don't see any possibility of that not happening. But we're going to end the video here. Those are some of my thoughts about Keiko, because I know some of you guys really think that she's going to become my favorite character. So I'm not going to say she's my favorite character yet. But definitely, I can definitely relate to her, and I definitely feel like I'm understanding her more and enjoying her character, I guess, in a way. I think when you relate to somebody, you enjoy them, right? So, anyways, we'll end the video here, and hopefully, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.